It's our tradition in Rebel News that we go to United Nations conferences. Whether or not we're allowed in or we have to be at the outskirts, we go to hold them accountable. And one of the worst UN conferences is the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Global Warming Conference. It's basically this annual reunion of tens of thousands of bureaucrats, diplomats, politicians, lobbyists, and they go to only luxury cities. They go to Bali, they go to Kyoto, and this year they're in a Brazilian city called Belém. And sometimes when these conferences are in atrocious human rights places, we don't go because our reporters would be arrested for asking challenging questions. Brazil is a fairly free place, not 100% free. It's free enough that I think it's safe to send our journalists. And no one knows this file better than Sheila Gunn, Reid, our chief reporter, who has been to probably half a dozen of these conferences. And Sheila, we're sending you and Kian, Simone, our videographer, down to Belém. Why don't you tell us when this conference is, what route you'll be taking, what logistics you need, and once we talk about that, let's get into the editorial plans.
The conference itself is from November 10th to the 21st. Of course, we won't be there the whole time, but you said tens of thousands. It's going to be approximately 53,000 people who are coming to this Brazilian city for the climate change conference. We have some pretty onerous flights to get there, and then equally onerous to get back. It's almost 2 days of travel for me to get there, and the flights are not cheap. I mean, several $1,000s for us to get there and back, and the flights to get back are just as terrible. But they put these climate change conferences sometimes in places that are pretty hard to get to, and I think that's by design sometimes, because this conference in Belém, Brazil, they built a highway through the Amazon to stage this thing. And I don't think they want a lot of people to see what they've done to the Amazon to host their climate change conference. So I'm going there. I've been to these conferences before, as you rightly point out. We were actually barred from these climate change conferences from being officially inside of them because I was, I think at the time, one of maybe two skeptical journalists who were there. But we've applied for official accreditation this time, as we always do. I'm skeptical if they're going to let us in, but that doesn't mean that it will stop our journalism. There's lots to show people in and around these conferences without having to be inside the official meetings.
I think, to my surprise, we did even better journalism on the outside because you're less controlled. I remember, I think it was in Germany, where you traced the electrical power. You just literally walked and followed the power lines to a bunch of diesel generators. Yeah. And it was in Marrakesh where you saw that these car charging stations were fake. They were like movie props. You leaned on one and it tipped over. So I think that by being, like, if you were in these endless boardrooms and ballrooms where they blah, 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 sustainable, blah, I think you would go nuts. But I think the story starts with getting there. How many private jets? How hacking a highway through the Amazon for climate, that's sort of like my lie, to save the town we had to destroy it. Like, it's just super crazy. And I think you actually learn more about the conference by these external things than by what some position papers, some third-ranking diplomat from Niger has to share or something.
Yeah, I mean, being inside the conferences, you're right. You're strictly controlled. The first climate change conference that we went to, we were allowed inside. It was at Marrakesh, Morocco. But outside the conference or outside of the meetings, we were actually able to show the people they built this entirely disposable UN compound in the desert. And then do you remember they watered the desert every morning to make sure that the fancy people didn't get their shoes dirty on their way to their meetings where they told us, you know, to make sure we use low flow shower heads to save water. I think being outside of those meetings really liberates us to do the kind of journalism that normal people actually care about.
I mean, it reminds me of when we go to Davos every year and we check in on the private jet airstrip. All these folks inside telling us to turn our thermostat down in the winter or put on a sweater, but they fly private in and out, sometimes just one person on an entire plane. Tamara, I remember when you went to a UN gathering for us, you went to the World Health Assembly. You know, we want to be friendly enough that we get conversations with people, but we want to be tough enough that they're meaningful conversations. What's your advice on maybe how to balance that? I mean, you actually scrummed Tedros, the head of the World Health Organization. What advice would you have for our team that's going to Belém?
Well, that scrum with Tedros, for anyone who remembers, lasted approximately 26 seconds. So my advice is to always be prepared, to know your facts ahead of time, to have your questions ready to go on the fly if you have a 30-second interaction with some unelected oligarch or bureaucrat that you need to point a direct, pointed question to on the fly. The best thing to do is to be prepared, have your facts ready, and really be ready to pounce in those instances where you come across people or individuals that maybe perhaps you wouldn't otherwise, just in passing.
That's good advice. It's going to be interesting to see who goes there from Canada. I mean, one of the first big foreign trips that Justin Trudeau made was to Paris. I mean, can you imagine this global warming conference in Paris? What a lovely city to visit. And Canada had one of the largest delegations because every hanger-on, every assistant said, I'm absolutely essential. I have to go there. But now, I mean, Belém, I've never been, but it sounds sort of exotic and interesting, but it's no Paris. And all of a sudden, everyone from, you know, all these people who care, like Bill Gates the other day said, well, maybe global warming is not that important now that we need an enormous amount of energy for AI. Like, I think suddenly the whole world doesn't really even pretend. Like, even Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, he ran something called the Global Financial Alliance for Net Zero. It was basically to get banks to blacklist oil and gas projects. That group is disbanded. I mean, with Trump and his trade deals, it's all energy all the time. I think that it's going to be the losers who are there. Like, I don't think you're going to have a lot of prominent people there. I think it's going to be the pitiful hangers-on, the grifters, the lobbyists trying to wring the last few things. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Mark Carney's going to go? Maybe on the other hand, maybe he'll go just because he likes getting out of Canada so much. He hates going to Parliament. He's basically traveled for 1/3 of his time as PM. What's your prediction? Do you think Mark Carney's going to go down there just to run away from his troubles?
I do. I think he will go. I think Canada will have a large delegation because this is the Prime Minister who wrote the book Values on his plan to pull the old Great Green Reset on the international economy. I think that he is somebody who sees him as one of the fancier peoples of the world. And this is his place where he can go and remind everybody that he is a global green bankster and virtue signal at every opportunity. Every time the economy is melting down in Canada, Mark Carney jets off somewhere else. And we're in the middle of a huge trade disagreement with the Americans. And what better place to recuperate from that than a major luxury port city in Brazil?
Now, Isaac, we've used different websites before. What website are we thinking of using to put all our coverage on this journey to Belém?
Viewers can find all the reports for this mission at rebelun.com.
Ah, that's right. It wasn't UN, right? It's rebelun.com.
And that'll have the reports from this mission as well as all of our past UN reporting missions.
Got it. rebelun.com. All right. Now, as everybody knows, Rebel News does not get a dime from the government, and it shows. I mean, if we were taking government money, there's no way we would be able to go down there and criticize our government. That's why the CBC is so obedient. So we have to crowdfund this. Now, to fly from Edmonton to Belém and from Toronto to Belém for our videographer, that's it's a little less than $5,000. Let's estimate that the Airbnb is $1,500. Wouldn't surprise me if it is. And then you need taxis, and you need food, and you need data. I think that this whole thing is going to end up being, and I hate to say it, I think it's going to be about $8,500. There will be critics of the theory of man-made global warming. For example, our friend Mark Morano. He's with climatedepot.com. He has gone to every climate gathering for about 20 years. He's probably the single most knowledgeable critic of the UN's global warming projects I've ever met. So please reach out to allies like that. Maybe Bjorn Lomborg, the skeptical environmentalist. There are other people who are starting to wake up and say, throwing trillions of dollars at green schemes doesn't help anyone other than the lobbyists. Last word to you, Sheila.
You're exactly right. Over many years of doing this conference, showing up and reporting on this specific conference, we made a lot of skeptical friends along the way. There's going to be a larger contingent of skeptics than ever before, and I'm interested to see the American pavilion, what it looks like there now, because I remember when we were in Bonn, Germany, the Americans sent a strong delegation to their pavilion promoting oil and gas and coal. So I can't wait to see what Donald Trump does at this convention. And I'm just so pleased that our viewers will help us be on the ground to tell the other side of the story.
All right, well, it's a big project. The biggest part is the journey. I mean, I want to sympathize with you and thank you, Sheila, because I know that the journey from your house to the airport, that's 2 hours right there. Edmonton to Toronto, 4 hours right there. Toronto to, I forget the middle, you've got 2 full days of travel on each side of this 3-day trip on the ground. I feel terrible for you, but I'm grateful to you for doing it. Someone's got to do it. You're the woman for it because this is your beat. And for folks who want to chip in, I think we're going to need $8,500, plus or minus $500. Folks, if you want to help us out, do me a favor and go to rebelun.com. Is that right, Isaac?
That's right.
Rebelun.com. The only way this works is if people value the journalism. We've got some good experience here, both on the reporter side and the editing side. Efron himself cut his teeth on this kind of journalism. And I hope you support us. I think this is one of the best things Rebel News does. We hold the United Nations itself to account, and we do that all over the world. Go to rebelun.com.